SOS meant help to them. They didn't expect Deathworlders at their gates. The crystalline communication array aboard the Serenity's Whisper flickered with dying energy as Chief Navigator Xylan pressed her webbed fingers against the bioluminescent control surface. The peaceful research vessel, designed for studying cosmic phenomena in the Outer Rim territories, had never been built to survive catastrophic system failures this far from civilization. "Status report, Thyra," Xylan called to the ship's biotechnician, her voice carrying the melodic tones characteristic of the Aquari species. The blue-scaled alien's gills fluttered with stress as warning biolights pulsed red throughout the organic walls of their living ship. Thyra's tentacle-like appendages danced across her console, interfacing directly with the ship's nervous system. "The neural pathways are degrading faster than predicted, Navigator. Our symbiotic vessel is dying." Her bioluminescent patches dimmed with sorrow. Perhaps 6 rotations before complete organ failure. The Serenity's Whisper wasn't just their ship. It was a living creature, bred by the Aquari for deep space exploration. Its biological systems were perfectly adapted for the peaceful, scientific missions that the Galactic Harmony Council preferred. Unfortunately, that same biological design made it incredibly vulnerable to the exotic radiation they'd encountered near the mysterious stellar anomaly. Engineer Zephyr floated over from the propulsion chamber, his gossamer wings barely moving in the ship's gentle atmosphere. The ethereal's translucent form shimmered with concern. "The quantum drift generators are completely offline. Even if we could repair the bioneural damage, we lack the exotic matter needed to restart the engines." Xylan studied the tactical display showing their position in the void between star systems. They were 2.7 light cycles from the nearest Harmony outpost, with no possibility of rescue before their ship expired. The Galactic Harmony Council had built a civilization based on cooperation and mutual aid. But their peaceful nature meant rescue ships were few and often inadequately equipped for emergencies. "What about that system?" Thera pointed to a yellow star on the edge of their sensors. "Third planet shows atmospheric composition suitable for carbon-based life. Strong electromagnetic signatures suggest technological development." Xylan examined the readings more carefully. The planet appeared to have vast oceans, perfect for her species, and the energy signatures indicated a civilization that had at least discovered electricity. "Preliminary development stage?" "Uncertain," Zephyr replied, his form flickering with concentration. "The electromagnetic patterns are unusual, very strong, very organized, perhaps more advanced than initial scans suggest." The ship shuddered as another biological system failed. Thyra's bioluminescent patches flashed in alarm. "Hull integrity decreasing. We now have maybe 4 rotations instead of 6. Xylan made the decision that would change everything. "Transmit standard Harmony first contact protocols toward that planet. Mathematical sequences, peaceful intentions, then our emergency situation." She paused, watching her dying crew. "Include our biological specifications and current medical status. If they're advanced enough to help, they'll need to know what kind of life support we require." "Are you certain, Navigator?" Zephyr asked nervously. "Contact with underdeveloped species carries risks. What if they cannot comprehend our situation?" "What choice do we have?" Xylan replied, watching another bio-light fade. "We either trust in the kindness that binds all thinking beings, or we drift here until our ship dies." Meanwhile, 180 million kilometers away on Earth, Dr. Raven Cross was finishing her midnight shift at the Arecibo Deep Space Monitoring Array. Hidden beneath the facility's civilian radio telescope operations was humanity's most classified project, the search for hostile extraterrestrial intelligence, or SHETI. Unlike the peaceful SETI programs that searched for friendly alien contact, SHETI operated on the assumption that any sufficiently advanced alien civilization would view humanity as either a resource to exploit or a threat to eliminate. Dr. Cross had been monitoring deep space for 15 years, waiting for the signal that would prove humanity wasn't alone and that they were in danger. When her quantum analysis computer began screaming alerts at 2:47 a.m., she almost dismissed it as another equipment malfunction. But the signal was clearly artificial, structured, and coming from just outside their solar system. Her hands trembled as she activated every recording system in the facility. The transmission began with prime numbers and basic mathematics, exactly as every first contact protocol predicted. But then it shifted to something that made her blood run cold. Detailed biological specifications, medical data, and what appeared to be technical readouts of an alien vessel. Dr. Cross reached for the red phone that connected directly to Northcom. General Phoenix, this is Dr. Cross at Site Delta 7. We have a Code Omega situation. Yes, sir. It's real. General Marcus Phoenix had been expecting this call for 20 years. As director of the Terran Extinction Prevention Initiative, he'd overseen the construction of humanity's most closely guarded secret, a military force designed to fight a war that might never come. He arrived at the Pentagon at 3:15 a.m., where emergency protocols were already activating. Deep beneath the building, in a facility that officially didn't exist, the greatest military minds in human history were gathering for a meeting they'd hoped would never happen. Analysis, Dr. Cross, General Phoenix demanded as he entered the secure briefing room where President Victoria Kane was already reviewing the alien transmission data. Sir, the signal is definitely from an extraterrestrial vessel in severe distress, Dr. Cross reported, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. They're following what appears to be standard first contact procedures, but they're also transmitting detailed intelligence about their ship's capabilities, crew composition, and biological requirements. Lieutenant Colonel Dakota Storm, head of the Alien Technology Assessment Division, looked up from her analysis console. General, I've been studying the technical specifications they transmitted. This is either a genuine medical emergency or it's the most sophisticated intelligence gathering operation in galactic history. Explain, President Kane demanded. They've given us their ship's exact position, structural composition, crew manifest, biological needs, and technical capabilities. Either they're so desperate they're willing to trust us with everything, or they're testing our response to determine our threat level. Commander River Thorne, captain of humanity's flagship Nemesis, spoke from his position at the strategic display. Madam President, there's a third possibility. This could be a probe sent to determine Earth's defensive capabilities before a larger force arrives. General Phoenix activated the room's main display, showing a three-dimensional map of human space assets. For the past 3 decades, we've been preparing for this moment. Operation Deathworld has placed 347 armed vessels throughout our solar system, all disguised as civilian research and mining operations. President Kane studied the tactical display, showing hundreds of ships scattered from Mercury to Pluto. General, are you recommending we activate the entire fleet for what might be a single alien vessel in distress? Madam President, Colonel Storm interrupted, we've detected secondary transmissions from the alien vessel. They're not just sending us first contact messages, they're broadcasting distress calls in multiple directions. If this is a reconnaissance probe, they're calling for backup. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Admiral Coral Vance, head of Earth's Deep Space Defense Network, finally spoke. If they're genuine refugees, we might be able to establish peaceful contact and learn about galactic civilization. If they're hostile scouts, we need to show them that Earth won't be an easy target. President Kane turned to Dr. Axel Rivera, Earth's leading xenopsychologist. Doctor, what's your assessment of their psychological profile based on these communications? Dr. Rivera had been analyzing the alien transmissions for hours. Madam President, their communication patterns show what appears to be genuine distress and hope. They're following extremely careful protocols designed to appear non-threatening. However, the level of detailed information they're providing is unusual. Unusual how? Either their species has no concept of information security, or they're so desperate that they're willing to make themselves completely vulnerable to us. In human terms, it would be like broadcasting our nuclear codes to aliens and hoping they'd use them responsibly. General Phoenix made his recommendation. Madam President, I propose we activate Operation Deathworld at 60% capacity. We respond to their distress call with enough force to handle any surprises, but not so much that we appear aggressive to genuine refugees. President Kane considered the options. How many ships are we talking about? 208 vessels, including 12 dreadnoughts, 47 battle cruisers, and our mobile command platform. They can reach the alien vessel's position within 14 hours. Dr. Cross looks shocked. General, that's not a rescue fleet. That's an invasion armada. Doctor, Admiral Vance replied coldly, we don't know the difference between a dying research vessel and an advanced scout ship. If we're wrong about their intentions, 200 ships might not be enough. If we're right about them needing help, then we can provide any assistance they require. President Kane stood and walked to the window overlooking the Potomac. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to announce to the galaxy that humanity exists and that we're prepared for war. I want every possible effort made to communicate peacefully, but our survival takes priority over diplomatic niceties. She turned back to the room. Activate Operation Deathworld. God help us all. Within minutes, coded transmissions reached every corner of the solar system. Commander Thorne received his orders aboard the Nemesis while conducting asteroid mining operations near Ceres. Captain Lyra Frost got the call while her ship Retribution was disguised as a deep space research vessel near Jupiter. Lieutenant Colonel Blaze Hunter was testing new propulsion systems on his ship Vengeance when the activation order reached him. As the human fleet began converging on the edge of the solar system, the crew of the Serenity's Whisper continued their desperate wait for rescue. Any response to our transmissions? Xylan asked for the 20th time, her gill slits barely functioning in the ship's failing atmosphere. Nothing direct, Zephyr replied weakly, his translucent form becoming more transparent as their life support systems degraded. But I'm detecting massive movement in their system, many ships changing course toward our position. Thyra managed a flutter of hope in her bioluminescent patches. They're sending rescue vessels? I'm not certain, Zephyr said, studying his readings with growing confusion. There are too many ships, far too many for a barely space-capable civilization. What the aliens couldn't comprehend was that they had just triggered the largest military mobilization in human history. Earth wasn't sending them medical aid, it was sending them an armada that had been built specifically to fight extraterrestrial threats. As the first wave of human ships approached, Xylan felt their vessel's bioneural network finally beginning to collapse. Life support is failing completely, Thyra reported, her voice barely a whisper. Perhaps one rotation remaining. Navigator Xylan watched the sensor readings with growing bewilderment. How many vessels are approaching, Zephyr? The ethereal's form flickered weakly as he interfaced with their dying ship's sensors. I count 47 ships in the primary formation. All of them are significantly larger than any vessel in Harmony space. 47 ships? Thyra's bioluminescent patches pulsed with confusion. That's larger than most galactic Harmony defense fleets. I thought this was supposed to be a primitive civilization. Xylan stared at the tactical display in growing horror. In all her years of making first contact with developing species, she had never encountered anything like this. Most civilizations barely had space travel when the Harmony first contacted them. Some sent a single vessel to investigate distress calls. A few sent nothing at all, too afraid or too primitive to respond. But 47 warships suggested something that defied everything she knew about galactic development patterns. These readings cannot be correct, she whispered, checking the sensors again. No species develops this level of military capability before achieving interstellar communication. Engineer Zephyr's translucent form shimmered with fear. Navigator, I've been analyzing their ship configurations. These are not exploration vessels or even patrol craft. Every single one appears to be designed specifically for combat. The revelation hit the dying crew like a physical blow. They hadn't contacted a developing civilization. They'd stumbled upon a species that had already militarized their entire star system. Commander River Thorne stood on the bridge of the Nemesis as his fleet approached the alien vessel. Through the main view screen, he could see the strange ship clearly now. Organic curves and bioluminescent patches that pulsed weakly like a dying heartbeat. It was clearly in distress, but it was also clearly built by a technology Earth had never seen. Commander, Communications Officer Sage Martinez reported from her station, we're receiving another transmission from the alien vessel. Dr. Rivera thinks he can partially translate it now. Put it through speakers, Thorne ordered. The transmission was haunting, musical tones mixed with what sounded like desperate pleading. Dr. Rivera's voice came over the comm system with a rough translation. "Commander, they're saying something like peaceful intentions in medical emergency, but they're also transmitting what appears to be surrender protocols." "Surrender protocols?" Thorne frowned. "We haven't even made contact yet." "Sir, it might be their response to detecting our fleet strength. Some species have evolved to submit immediately when confronted by superior force." But to Commander Thorne, trained to expect the worst from any alien contact, this looked exactly like standard military doctrine, gathering intelligence about enemy capabilities while appearing to surrender. "Signal the fleet to take defensive positions around the alien vessel," Thorne ordered, "and prepare a boarding party. We're going to secure that ship." Colonel Storm's Marine detachment began preparing for what could be humanity's first hostile encounter with extraterrestrial life. The Marines checked their weapons and activated their combat armor, not knowing that the aliens inside the dying ship were simply following their species' natural survival instincts. Back on the Serenity's Whisper, the crew watched in growing terror as the human ship surrounded them. The vessels were unmistakably military in design, bristling with weapon systems that were now pointed directly at their dying ship. "By the eternal currents," Thyra whispered, her bioluminescent patches dimming with despair. "They're not here to help us. Look at those ships. They're warships." Xylan couldn't understand what had gone wrong. Every first contact protocol in galactic harmony history indicated that developing species either ignored distress calls or sent assistance. They didn't respond with battle fleets. "Try broadcasting complete submission protocols," she ordered desperately. "Transmit all our navigational data, ship specifications, and biological requirements. Show them we're not a threat." But when their transmission reached the human fleet, it only made the situation worse. The detailed information about Harmony space, the locations of their worlds, and their defensive capabilities looked to the humans exactly like military intelligence from an advanced scout. Commander Thorne felt his blood chill as he read the intelligence report. "Admiral Vance, this is Commander Thorne. The alien contact is not what we expected. They've just transmitted detailed star charts, fleet compositions, and what appears to be strategic intelligence about multiple star systems." Back on Earth, Admiral Vance received the message in the Pentagon's command center. President Kane and her emergency staff were monitoring the situation around the clock. "Madam President," Admiral Vance announced grimly, "Commander Thorne reports that the alien vessel has transmitted detailed military intelligence about their civilization. Star maps, defensive positions, fleet strengths covering dozens of star systems." Dr. Rivera looked confused. "That doesn't make tactical sense. Why would they give us that information if they were hostile?" "Because they're probing our response," General Phoenix said coldly. "They want to see how we react to learning how vastly outnumbered we are." President Kane made the decision that would define humanity's first contact with alien life. "Tell Commander Thorne to secure that alien vessel. We need to know what we're dealing with before their reinforcements arrive." The order reached Thorne within minutes. He opened a channel to the alien ship, with Sage Martinez broadcasting on frequencies that Dr. Rivera thought the aliens might understand. "Alien vessel, this is Commander River Thorne of the Terran Defense Force. Power down all systems immediately and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force." On the Serenity's Whisper, the crew heard the transmission through their failing translation systems. The harsh, commanding tone was exactly the kind of communication their species associated with apex predators. "They're demanding complete surrender," Zephyr whispered, his form almost completely transparent now. "We have no choice," Xylan replied, looking at her dying crew and failing ship. "Shut down everything except minimal life support." But as the human Marines prepared to board their ship, Xylan followed Galactic Harmony emergency protocols and activated their vessel's distress beacon, broadcasting a priority alert to any Harmony forces in the region. "Mayday, Mayday, this is Navigator Xylan of the research vessel Serenity's Whisper. We are being held by hostile forces from an unknown Deathworld species. They possess overwhelming military superiority and appear to be aggressively territorial, requesting immediate evacuation assistance from any Harmony vessels in range. The message raced through quantum space toward the nearest Harmony patrol fleet, carrying news that would terrify the peaceful galactic civilization. Dr. Rivera, monitoring all alien communications from the Nemesis, detected the outgoing transmission, and his face went pale. "Commander, they just sent another message. I can't translate all of it, but I caught the words for hostile, Deathworld, and assistance." Commander Thorne realized what this meant. "They're calling for backup." He opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, the alien vessel has just transmitted a call for reinforcements. Prepare for incoming hostile contacts." What had started as a rescue mission was rapidly becoming the first battle of an interstellar war, and neither side understood how catastrophically they had misread each other's intentions. Fleet Commander, Harmony Singer. Valera had never expected to use her tactical training in actual combat. The Galactic Harmony Council had maintained peace for over 800 cycles, and her position was largely ceremonial, organizing trade escorts and cultural exchanges between member species. But when the emergency quantum burst transmission from the Serenity's Whisper reached her patrol fleet, everything changed. "How distant are they?" she asked her navigation officer, trying to keep her voice steady despite the rising panic. 3 cycles at maximum acceleration, Fleet Commander. But the transmission is deeply concerning. Navigator Xylan reported contact with a Deathworld species possessing superior military technology. Valera felt her entire body shimmering with fear. Deathworld species were the ultimate nightmare in Harmony space. Planets where evolution had created beings so aggressive and militaristic that they viewed war as natural. The Harmony had encountered only one such species before, and they'd been forced to quarantine that entire star system. "How many vessels do we have available?" she asked. 18 ships, Fleet Commander, all escort vessels with minimal defensive capabilities. We were never designed to face military threats. Valera knew that 18 lightly armed patrol ships would be useless against a true Deathworld military force, but she couldn't abandon Harmony citizens to hostile aliens. "Set course for their position. Send a quantum burst to Harmony Command, requesting immediate military assistance. Tell them we may have encountered an aggressive Deathworld species with overwhelming force projection capabilities." The Harmony fleet began moving toward what they believed would be a desperate rescue mission against primitive but dangerous aliens. None of them understood that they were heading toward a confrontation with the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. On Earth, intelligence analyst Nova Sterling was working in the Pentagon's Alien Communications Center, trying to decode every signal from space. What she was discovering made her more concerned by the hour. "Admiral Vance," she called out as the Admiral entered the analysis center, "you need to see this immediately." "What do you have, Sterling?" Nova pointed to her computer screen displaying intercepted alien communications. "We've been monitoring their quantum transmissions since first contact. The aliens have been sending distress calls to something called the Galactic Harmony Council, and we're now detecting response signals." Admiral Vance studied the data carefully. "How many ships?" "At least 18 confirmed, possibly more. They'll reach Commander Thorne's position in approximately 72 hours. Nova switched to another screen. "But Admiral, there's something else. I've been analyzing the linguistic patterns and cultural references in their communications." "What kind of references?" "The aliens aren't acting like a military force, Admiral. Their communications are filled with words that translate to things like peaceful currents, harmony, and cooperative assistance. Even their distress calls are phrased as requests for evacuation assistance rather than military backup." Admiral Vance felt a cold realization settling in her stomach. "Are you saying we might have made a mistake?" "I'm saying the evidence suggests they really were just asking for help, and we responded with the largest military fleet in human history. Now their rescue force is coming to save them from what they think is a hostile encounter." The Admiral immediately opened a secure channel to President Kane. "Madam President, we may have a developing diplomatic crisis." Meanwhile, Commander Thorne's boarding party had successfully secured the alien research vessel, and Colonel Storm was reporting back from inside the ship. "Commander, this is Colonel Storm reporting from the alien vessel. Sir, these beings are definitely not soldiers. They're weak, terrified, and their ship contains no weapons whatsoever. This is genuinely a research vessel. Are they cooperating, Colonel? Completely, sir. They're actually trying to help us understand their technology and medical needs. Commander, I don't think these are enemy scouts. I think they're exactly what they appear to be. Dying scientists who ask for help. But before Thorne could respond, his sensor officer called out urgently, "Commander, we're detecting incoming ships. 18 vessels approaching from deep space. ETA 72 hours. Thorne opened a channel to Admiral Vance on Earth. "Admiral, we have confirmed hostile reinforcements inbound. 18 ships, estimated arrival in 3 days. Requesting permission to engage if necessary." "Permission denied, Commander," Vance replied immediately. "New intelligence suggests this entire situation may be a massive misunderstanding. Continue to monitor but do not initiate hostilities unless directly attacked." Captain Frost, commanding the Retribution from her position in the fleet formation, added her own observations. "Commander Thorne, my xenobiology team has been analyzing biological samples from the alien ship. These beings are herbivorous, low aggression, and appear to be genuinely peaceful. Their ship's design supports scientific research, not military operations." Lieutenant Colonel Hunter aboard the Vengeance confirmed similar findings. "Commander, my technical analysis team has been studying their vessel. It's grown, not built, some kind of biotechnology we don't understand, but it's definitely not designed for combat. But it was too late to change the fundamental trajectory of events. Both fleets were now committed to a course that neither side truly wanted. The human fleet couldn't simply withdraw without appearing weak, and the Harmony fleet couldn't abandon their people to what they believed were dangerous predators. Dr. Rivera, working with alien language specialists on Earth, finally achieved a breakthrough in communication that made the situation's true scope clear. "Admiral Vance," he announced during an emergency video conference, "I've been analyzing the complete linguistic database from the alien ship, and I think I understand what went wrong." "Explain, Doctor." "Their species appears to have evolved as prey animals on a world with numerous predator species. When confronted by what they perceive as predators, their natural survival response is complete submission and information sharing. They saw our military fleet and immediately started broadcasting everything they knew, not as intelligence gathering, but as appeasement behavior." President Kane leaned forward. "You're saying they were trying to convince us not to hurt them?" "Exactly, Madam President. And from their perspective, our response confirmed their worst fears about us. We acted exactly like the kind of aggressive apex predators they're evolutionarily programmed to fear." Admiral Vance studied the tactical displays, showing both fleets approaching each other. "Can we fix this, Doctor?" "Maybe, but it's going to be extremely difficult. We now have two armed fleets moving toward confrontation, both believing the other represents an existential threat. The aliens think we're aggressive Deathworlders, and we've been treating them like an invasion force." General Phoenix looked at the strategic implications. "The real problem is that our response has confirmed every fear they have about us. We proved we were exactly the kind of militaristic species they were afraid of." When the Harmony fleet finally reached the edge of the confrontation zone, Fleet Commander Valora was horrified by what her sensors revealed. The human fleet had grown to over 90 ships, all clearly designed for warfare. Her 18 escort vessels looked like insects compared to the massive human dreadnoughts. "By the eternal Harmony," she whispered, staring at the tactical display. "How many ships do they have?" "Sensors indicate 93 vessels, Fleet Commander, with more arriving continuously. All armed with weapon systems we cannot identify." Valora realized she had led her people into a situation far beyond anything the Harmony had ever encountered. This wasn't a rescue mission anymore. This was potential extinction. "Send a quantum burst to Harmony Command," she ordered, her voice shaking. "Tell them we have encountered a Deathworld species with massive military capabilities. Request immediate evacuation of all Harmony worlds within 100 light cycles of this system." The message that reached Harmony headquarters sent panic through the peaceful alien civilization. For the first time in their history, they began preparing for war against an enemy they couldn't understand and couldn't match. Both fleets now faced each other across the darkness of space like ancient armies preparing for battle. On one side, Fleet Commander Valara commanded 18 Harmony escort ships that had never fired a shot in anger. On the other side, Commander Thorn led 93 human warships that had been built specifically to fight aliens. The two fleets hung in space, separated by only a few 100,000 kilometers, each convinced that the other represented an existential threat to their entire civilization. Lieutenant Commander Atlas Phoenix, General Phoenix's daughter, watched the alien ships from her position aboard the destroyer Justice. She had been studying their movement patterns and found something that bothered her. "Captain Morrison," she called to her commanding officer, "look at how the alien ships are positioned. They're not forming attack formations. They're clustering together like they're trying to protect each other." Captain Morrison studied the tactical display carefully. "You're right, Phoenix. Those aren't battle formations. They look more like..." He paused, trying to find the right comparison. "Like a herd of animals trying to shield their young." This observation was being made across the human fleet. Experienced military officers were realizing that the Harmony ships were behaving more like frightened refugees than an invasion force. On the Nemesis, Dr. Rivera was working frantically to establish meaningful communication with the alien commander. "Commander Thorn, I think I can communicate with them now. But sir, everything I've learned suggests that this is all a catastrophic misunderstanding." Thorn looked at the tactical display, showing the two fleets facing each other. "Explain quickly, Doctor." "Sir, their language structure indicates they're what we might call cooperative pacifists. They've spent centuries building a civilization based on mutual aid and peaceful cooperation. They literally don't have words for concepts like territorial aggression or preemptive strike. Then why are they here with a fleet? Because from their perspective, we kidnap their people and threaten them with overwhelming force. They're not here to fight us. They're here to rescue their crew from what they think are dangerous predators." The terrible irony of the situation became clear to Commander Thorn. Humanity had responded to a peaceful distress call with a battle fleet, which had prompted the aliens to send their own rescue force, which humanity had interpreted as military reinforcement. Meanwhile, aboard the Harmony flagship, Fleet Commander Valera was receiving her own disturbing intelligence. Her science officer had been analyzing the human ships and made a discovery that terrified her. "Fleet Commander," the science officer reported, "I've been studying the Deathworld vessels, and I've found something that explains their behavior." "What have you discovered?" "Many of their ships were disguised as civilian vessels until recently. Research ships, mining platforms, exploration craft. They all revealed military capabilities when they arrived here." "What does that mean?" "It means they built a secret military fleet before they even knew we existed. They were preparing for war with aliens they had never met. This isn't just an aggressive species, Fleet Commander. This is a species so militaristic that they arm themselves against imaginary enemies." The full horror of humanity's nature became clear to the Harmony Commander. These weren't just territorial predators. These were beings so paranoid and aggressive that they had weaponized their entire star system against threats that didn't even exist. Back on Earth, President Kane was trying to find a way to prevent an interstellar war while maintaining Earth's security. "Dr. Rivera, is there any way to communicate with their commander directly?" "Yes, Madam President. I've established a communication protocol that should work. Put me through to their leader." The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at an alien face for the first time in human history. Fleet Commander Valera appeared on the screen, her bioluminescent patches flickering with fear and confusion. "Greetings, leader of the Deathworld species," Valera said through the translation system. "I am Fleet Commander Harmony Singer Valera of the Galactic Harmony Council. We do not wish to engage in territorial combat with your overwhelming military force." President Kane exchanged glances with her advisors before responding carefully. "Fleet Commander Valera, I am President Kane of Earth. We also do not wish to fight. We were responding to a distress call from your people." "Distress call?" Valera looked confused and terrified. "But you surrounded our research vessel with warships and took our people prisoner. We interpreted this as aggressive predator behavior." Admiral Vance stepped forward. "Fleet Commander, when your people transmitted detailed information about your civilization, we interpreted it as hostile intelligence gathering. We thought you might be scouts for a larger military force. Valera's bioluminescent patches flickered with what Dr. Rivera was beginning to recognize as amazement. They were following submission protocols. When prey species encounter apex predators, they provide all useful information to demonstrate they are not a threat. The revelation hit both sides simultaneously. Humans realized they had been treating frightened scientists like enemy soldiers. The aliens realized that the humans had genuinely been trying to help, but their military response had terrified the Harmony crew. Dr. Rivera, monitoring the conversation from his position on the Nemesis, made another crucial observation. President Kane, Admiral Vance, I think I know why this escalated so dramatically. Our species represent opposite evolutionary paths. They evolved as cooperative prey animals on a peaceful world. We evolved as competitive persistence hunters on a death world. Our natural responses to unknown situations are completely incompatible. Commander Thorne, listening to the conversation, finally understood the full scope of what had happened. Permission to begin standing down our weapons, Admiral? If we're going to fix this, someone has to make the first peaceful gesture. President Kane considered the request. Fleet Commander Valera, if we order our ships to power down their weapons, will your fleet do the same? Your species would do that? Valera asked, sounding amazed. Even though you possess overwhelming superiority? We're not actually aggressive predators, Fleet Commander, President Kane replied. We just prepare for worst-case scenarios. It's how our species survived on our homeworld. Slowly, carefully, both fleets began powering down their weapon systems. The process took several hours because neither side completely trusted the other, but eventually the immediate threat of violence passed. Fleet Commander Valera was the first to break the tense silence. Your species built an entire armada before you even knew other civilizations existed. The Harmony Council will need to understand this development. Admiral Vance nodded. And we need to understand the Galactic Harmony Council. It appears we have much to learn about each other. What happens now? Commander Thorne asked over the communication channel. President Kane looked at the displays showing dozens of human warships facing the small Harmony fleet. Now we try to turn this misunderstanding into an opportunity. Fleet Commander, would the Harmony Council be interested in establishing formal diplomatic relations with Earth? I believe the Council would be very interested in ensuring that Earth remains peaceful, Valera replied carefully. Your military capabilities are quite impressive. Dr. Rivera couldn't help but smile. Madam President, I think we just accidentally announced to the galaxy that humanity is ready for interstellar politics. Navigator Xylan, finally rescued from her dying ship and recovering aboard a human medical vessel, sent her own report back to Harmony Command. The Deathworld species called humans are not naturally aggressive toward other sapiens. They are naturally paranoid and defensively militaristic. They built weapons to fight wars that did not exist yet. Recommend extreme caution in diplomatic contact, not because they are evil, but because they are so well prepared for conflict that they can intimidate entire fleets without intending to be threatening. As the two fleets separated and began the long process of establishing formal first contact protocols, both sides realized that this encounter had changed everything. The galaxy now knew that Earth existed, and that humans were the kind of species that prepared for alien invasions before aliens arrived. The Harmony Council began quietly informing other galactic civilizations about the new Deathworld species that had joined galactic society, not because humans were malevolent, but because they were so thoroughly prepared for war that they had accidentally intimidated an entire alien fleet without even trying. And on Earth, President Kane signed the first Interstellar Defense and Diplomacy Act, officially acknowledging that humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and that their secret fleet would now become the foundation of Earth's role in galactic civilization. The age of human isolation was over. The galaxy had just learned that Earth was inhabited by a species that built armadas to fight imaginary enemies, and then use those armadas to rescue alien scientists. The universe would never be quite the same. The end.